Today's Focus Report takes us to Rwanda, where evangelicalism is booming. This joyous and uplifting form of Christianity has been popular in other corners of Africa since the 1970s. But it only began gaining a foothold in Rwanda at the end of the genocide and civil war back in 1994. These new generation churches have also profited from the damaged reputation of the Catholic Church, whose priests are known to have had links with the massacres and with the killing. Brooke reports.
Sunday Mass, with a magnetic draw akin to a rock concert. Religious chants, shouting and tears, frenetic preaching. In Rwanda, born-again churches are bursting at the seams. Evangelical churches, Zion Temple, Pentecostal, all are gaining influence.
There was Catholic before, but when the churches came with power of healing, miracles, manifestation of the Holy Spirit, so that's why people are following the Pentecostal churches instead of Catholic.
Congregations are snowballing because the spiritual communication is exuberant and seductive.
The Protestant church that doesn't feel the Holy Spirit, but for us, we feel it. The Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit can teach us.
But it wasn't always like this. These churches arrived here in the wake of the genocide, with the return of long-exiled Tutsi refugees from neighbouring countries. The churches have benefited from a fall in the prestige of the Catholic Church, damaged locally by its close relationship with the extremist Hutu regime before and during the genocide. Administered by white priests before decolonisation, Rwanda was one of the most Catholic churches on the continent. But between April and July 1994, numerous Catholic churches became massacre sites. Some priests even delivered their flocks into the hands of the killers. Chantale is a genocide survivor. She sometimes comes to meditate here, Nyamata Church, now a memorial. In April 1994, when the massacres began, she sought refuge in the church with other Tutsis. More than 5,000 were massacred. She was one of the few to escape. More than 20 years later, her resentment of the Catholic Church remains.
Before the genocide, I prayed in this Catholic church. I was baptized here. I took my communion here. But after they helped with the massacres in this church, without any pity, I decided that I would never come back to pray in a Catholic church. Yet I couldn't live without praying, so I became an Adventist.
But genocide survivors and former refugees represent only a minority of Rwanda's population. Others have been attracted to born-again churches and their ilk because they play on emotion.
What motivates people in these churches is the spontaneity of expression, the spontaneity of prayers. It also has something to do with a sense of communion, harmony, community. One must give honor where honor is due, and I think it's fair to say that these churches are bringing along many positive things. They're challenging us, the Catholic Church, in a positive way, but also other Protestant churches.
Today, Regina Pacis Church is full. Catholics here in Kigali celebrate the ordination of 2 new priests, proof that the Church's appeal endures for some here. Priests avoid directly criticising evangelical churches, but worry about some trends.
It is to be hoped that among all of our churches, including born-agains, but also traditional Protestants and the Catholics, that we all come closer together. We must maintain close contact to avoid situations where religion is distorted into something that is no longer religious, but rather opportunistic.
Compulsory donations set at 10% of born-again churchgoers' income are particularly controversial. Many pastors have become rich, with their churches functioning as profit-making enterprises. But the authorities aren't worried.
So for us, we are not threatened by the number. If church decides to to join hands, that would be their choice. If they decided to become more and more, and some even breakaways, as long as the law is not affected, we are not affected by this decision.
There are no official statistics for the growth of this phenomenon, but for better or worse, there's no denying that these churches are on the up.
Well, for more on the issues raised in that focus report, I'm joined now on set by Aimable André Duffatanier, a professor and a researcher in philosophy at the University of Lyon here in France. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. First of all, how do you explain this rise in evangelicalism? What is it offering that makes it so popular to the people of Rwanda and people across Africa?
Some reasons have been given in this interesting report, but there are some other reasons which have not been mentioned. Those are, for example, the geopolitical context. The geopolitical context, because there is a real American influence, and we can see that some financial aids come from American churches, but there are also some social facts like mimetism, a kind of mimetism, fashion. Some young people, they change religion because it's a kind of social mimetism. But we have also another important reason. This is the regime of RPF, which is the ruling party, which is an authoritarian regime, a dictatorship. And once people see that this regime attacks regularly the Catholic Church, they feel better in a place where they are not in the Catholic Church, but in those movements, in those evangelical churches, which are in somehow supported by the regime. Supported in, I mean, the people are able to see that the regime is against Catholic Church because this regime does not want to, to have a church which it does not dominate completely.
Now, these are a new generation churches, a new form of religion in Rwanda, but it's, of course, a form of religion that's been more widespread across Africa since the 1970s.
Yeah, what we can say is that those new churches got a big influence after the RPF took power, but we can say that this movement started to rise up with the war, which started on the 1st of October in 90s, the attack by RPF, and it's easier for those churches to, when they preach about the end of the world in a country where there is a war, it becomes easier. So this is linked to the phenomena, to the catastrophe of the war and the genocide of the war of 90 and the genocide of 94.
In your view, are there any dangers linked to what these people are preaching in these new evangelical churches?
Okay, you can have so many different things. First of all, there are some, you can observe that for some people, it helps them. But some churches, it's very dangerous in the sense that they are getting money, they are exploiting, they are thriving on the misery of the people, and they're trying to abuse people sometimes. And what else? They don't let people, with their preaching, it's like if they discourage people to criticize the regime, quoting, for example, some Bible speech like every power comes from God, so you shouldn't be criticizing, for example, the regime, the RPF regime. And what else is, what we can say also is that the development of those churches helps the RPF to cover the massacres it committed, for example, on the bishops, because RPF killed, that's something which media don't talk about. RPF killed the 3 bishops of the church in 1994 and killed the same day 3 bishops, and and many religious, and RPF does not want this information to be known, so it does everything to promote those churches and to diminish or to damage the image of the Catholic Church.
Okay, Aimable André Dufetannier, a professor and researcher at the University of Lyon, thank you very much for joining us here on France 24.